Let's talk about 3 reasons you might want to retire early and 1 reason you might want to wait. In my last video, I discussed the reasons that I wanted to retire early, given the opportunity. But in this video, I want to be more general and talk about not just my reasons, but other reasons as well. And I'm going to run these down from the number 3 down to number 1 as the reasons that you might want to retire early, if given the opportunity. And then I'm going to cover a reason you might want to wait. Maybe you won't want to retire early. Stay tuned to the end, because you're going to find it might be surprising the reason why you might want to hold off on retirement. Okay, let's start with reason number 3. Reason number 3, time. I know that's a very broad statement. It can mean a lot of different things. But for the most part, we're talking about, you've made the decision that you're wanting to spend more time with your family. You need time to do things. Maybe you're running out. And I find myself in this position as well. I was getting to the point where it seemed like I was so busy, I was chasing after my own tail. And along with that time, you might just feel like you're ready to move on to something else. Sometimes you get at a point in your career or your work life where you're just ready to move on. You're through with all that. So that's in keeping with time, but still kind of along that same lines. Maybe you want time to travel. Traveling is a big deal. My wife and I have started making a bucket list because my wife retires this June. And so we're creating a bucket list now, and we're going to want time to do that. And so this is one thing that it affords us. So time is a very important thing. Even though I'm putting this into a broad bucket, I suppose I should say, but it pertains to a lot of things. And time also pertains to your attitude. Because sometimes, because your attitude changes about work, and I'm not saying you're just frustrated and you hate going to work, but we all get to this point where you're just like, I feel like I could be doing something different. And so, of course, your attitude towards work changes. I got to the point where I was thinking, okay, I do enjoy my job. I enjoy working with people. But at the same time, I just felt like I'm over this. It's time to move on to something else. I'm too tired. I'm, falling behind. I don't feel like I'm really contributing as much as I could. I don't want to contribute as much as I used to. So those are all factors, and I do bunch all that into the broad spectrum of time. So however you look at it, being that your attitude is related to work, it all falls into this category of time. And so that's, let's just say, one bucket or one area. And I put this at number 3 because this is something that for the most part, a lot of people feel this for years before they retire. And you just feel like, man, I'm ready to move on. I'm ready to do something else. But at the same time, you're still hanging in there. You're hanging in there for years, just trying to prepare for retirement. That leads us to number 2. And number 2, even though a lot of people think this should be number 1, but number 2 is money. Yes, I know that a lot of people, this is a very top consideration for them, but let's face it, money, although it is important because you don't want to retire broke, but nonetheless, if you've made the decision to retire, it doesn't matter whether you're broke. It doesn't matter how much money you have. You're still going to find a way to get by and make do. I think a lot of people do this. We see a lot of videos, at least I've watched a lot of videos on YouTube that talk about financial planning for retirement, and they say that you need to have $1 million saved up or $500,000. And I look at my retirement savings and maybe put together, I might have had that. But, overall, that was not a prime consideration, because I just grew up knowing that I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to make do for what I have. And most people, I believe, fall into that particular area. You're going to enjoy your life. And when you get to the point where you don't really have a lot of money, you're going to make do. But nonetheless, you've come to that point in your life where you really just want to retire. The other thing is, people just tend to adjust to their situation. So if you're retiring and you have all kinds of retirement savings, and you're going to be living better than you were before you retired. You go out and buy yourself a 35-foot RV and go travel America. That's great. You have those means. But if you've made the decision to retire, then even if you don't have all that, you'll still do what you can and enjoy your life with what you have. And that's the main thing. Learning to enjoy life with what you have. Most people, and myself included, I will adjust to the means in which I am living in. And we've always done that. We've lived either at or below our means for most of our life, and also most of my life. And I'm assuming that most other people, most of your life, you're used to living with what you have, and you make do with what you have. So I think retirement is no different. And retirement is not the end all be all. It's not the end of everything. You'll still have the ability to get out there and do other things. And you'll have to forgive my location. I went to the park by a lake. It was a beautiful plan. I thought I was going to come out here and film. The sun was in the correct position. I'm trying to take into consideration all those things. And lo and behold, it's very, very windy. So I'm sitting inside of my truck right now and recording this video. And oddly enough, I'm not even using a mic, and I think the sound is good quality. So, maybe I'm learning something here. I'm learning about how to record in different situations. So, but hey, this is a learning experience for all of us. Let's move on to the number one reason why you might want to consider retiring early. The number one reason, in my opinion, you might want to consider retiring early is health. Now, of course, I talked about this in my first video about my retirement process, or my entry into my retirement journey. But I think that a lot of people look at this as a double-edged sword. I realized personally that 4 years ago, my health took a really big hit. And ever since that point, in the back of my mind, I've been thinking about retiring. And mostly because I just wanted to get the most out of the years I had left. The other thing is, when you're considering health, is you want to retire when you still have healthy years. This is just my personal thought, and I think a lot of other people feel this way. But you don't want to wait and retire when your health is so bad that you have no quality of life left. Now, I have two examples of this. I have a workmate who used to work with us, 3 years ago or so. And he discovered later on in years that he had Parkinson's. And so he kept working, and he had Parkinson's and was assigned to us because of that. And so he struggled along, and he finally ended up retiring when he medically had to retire. And him and I used to have long discussions about this, because by then I had already started thinking about retirement, and I was, concerned that he was not thinking about retirement, even in his condition. So with his Parkinson's, he kept on working and kept on working until he had to medically retire because he physically couldn't do it anymore. So upon his retirement, I think he might have had 1 or 2 good weeks. And then he went into a long-term facility, and both him and his wife died within a year. So that really hit me hard. That got me thinking, wow, that's one way to do it. And in his case, it didn't work out so well. Now, did he have a wonderful life up to that point? Probably. But his retirement life was very short-lived. And I have one other example as well. My second example is a relative, and she didn't work that much. She stayed at home most of the time, but she had no real goals, no aspirations, no hobbies. She didn't get out and meet people. She worked, but most of her jobs were part-time or not career-oriented most of her life. And so even though her retirement was basically the most of her life, she got to the point where physically she could not enjoy anything. And so now she's in long-term care, and that's the life she lives. And I use that as an example. I don't want to have to live that life. I don't want to put myself in that life. I want to keep going as long as I can. And I think most people feel the same way. When you retire, you're not planning on sitting in front of the TV and doing nothing. You know, I think when you retire, you do that because you want to go out and do things. You want to travel. You want to be with family. You know, we'll go on vacations, garden, putter around the house, whatever it takes to keep busy and have all that, you know, time freedom. You want to be able to do those things. So you don't want to wait until your health is so bad that you can't retire. And that's why I say health is one of those things that, in my opinion, is the #1 reason why you might want to consider retiring early. Now, in my case, my diagnosis of diabetes at the age of 57, that was an eye-opener for me. And I had been thinking, you know, maybe in the back of my mind, but at times it would come to the forefront. But I had been thinking about retirement ever since that point, because that piece of news changed my life. You know I've got experience with diabetes. My grandfather died at 73. So I know what my, you know, longevity is apt to be. So he did not discover that he had diabetes until I think it was 67 or so. So, you know, at 67, he had a few good years, which were basically filled with amputations. And he ended up dying at 73 due to complications of diabetes and lupus. Second example is my own father. Now, he died at 67. He basically had a stroke and became comatose, and they ended up having to pull the plug a few days later. But at 67, he died of a stroke, and because he didn't, you know, die in front of anybody, they had to do an autopsy, and they found he had diabetes upon his autopsy. So it affected him as well. So now I've got my grandfather, my father, and now I'm being told I have diabetes, and I looked at their lives and thought, I need to do something. So that had a big impact. And I'll probably talk more about diabetes and you know, this diabetic diagnosis in future videos. But suffice it to say, this is a big deal for most people. This or any kind of cancer or any other kind of health issue that they might have. Okay, so that is why I believe, anyway, that health is the #1 reason you should consider retiring early. Now let's talk about why you might not want to retire early. Maybe you want to wait. Well, what reason could there be for you to decide to wait and not retire, to postpone your retirement? And believe it or not, the #1 reason for wanting to retire, I know from other people's observations, can also be the #1 reason to postpone your retirement. And that is health. Now let me explain. Now I have one example of this, but it's a pretty powerful example. I have another friend who has some health issues. I won't discuss, you know, what kind of health issues he has, but they've been long-standing. Let's just say he's had a few operations. He's older than I am, so I believe he's 62 or 63 right now. And he has decided, because of his health issues, that he's holding off on retirement. Now, there's a couple of reasons for this, but I wanted to bring this up because this can be a reason you might want to hold off on retiring. So in his particular case, the reason that he's deciding to postpone his retirement is because he wants to maintain his health care and have a source of income as long as he possibly can. And because he's already suffering from these ailments, and he's already got life insurance and health insurance, well, he made a realistic decision to stay working because he's living a good life right now, he considers. He's happy with what he's doing. And so it becomes a very personal decision at this point. But for him, even though it's health, it kind of goes into the financial world as well. For him, he knows that his health is failing. So what he's trying to do is keep working as long as he can. I mean, if he dies on the job, he dies on the job, but it's very, very important to him to make sure that his wife and his family are taken care of. So for that reason, he's decided to hold off on retiring. And I understand that, you know, and I think that most people would. So that is one reason oddly enough, the same number one reason you'd want to retire early could be the number one reason you would want to postpone your retirement. Okay, well, that's all I have for today. I'm hoping this is a little bit shorter video than my first one. My wife had something to say about my long video. But look for more videos. I'd like to try to post about once a week. We'll see how that goes because, once again, I'm retired. I'm not really running on much of a schedule right now. So if you like this video and you'd like to see more, please make sure you like and subscribe. I guess that's how this works. Do I ask for likes and subscriptions? I don't know. I don't know how this works. So hope you all have a wonderful day. Till next time.